Good day, everyone. Welcome to Creating Identities. I am Nisham Artan, your host, and this morning I am with Erik, a very exciting guest from Sweden. He is the owner and creative director of the most expressive branding, design, and communication agency out there, Snask. He wears very cool pink suits, wins awards for making rock band videos, leads colorful campaigns that truly value craft, and with his partner in crime, Freddie Öst, they are the official doppelgangers of Aoki and Geta, which makes sense because they are often on tour. Ever since I've seen them present their work like a stand-up comedy duo in Namur Kick Festival, I've been waiting for this moment. So thank you for making it come true, Erik.
Wow, thank you. That was a very kind introduction. Nice.
Well,
Right.
I'm sure you get a lot of these because I've seen how you and Freddie are really nice to people like us who like to interview you for inspiration, to meet you. So before we get even started, how was your summer? Because I heard you've been traveling around having cool projects. How did it go?
Cool projects, maybe. Yeah, maybe we did. I don't even barely remember. I've been off at least a while now. So in Sweden we do the 4 weeks of vacation every summer or something. So I been trying to really be off, and finally I sort of managed to. I think I traveled, and normally I always do work when I'm on vacation as well. And then this year I came back, and I was like, I feel like I've forgotten everything.
Oh,
And then I was like, I realized that it was the first time in years when I haven't had a work call while on vacation. I didn't do any call or anything for like 4 weeks, just some emails, and that was it.
you think
So I'm
too.
yeah, very very happy about that. But otherwise, now it's back to normal, and I just came back from Mexico doing the off festival there and stuff. So now it's back to traveling, doing projects. That's fun.
Oh, that's cool. So, did you do holidays in Sweden? Did you go around?
With both, I did. I was off a bit in Sweden. Then I also went to the Dolomites in Italy. Did some hiking and breathing.
Nice, nice.
So yeah, it's a
Well,
bit mix of Mallorca a little bit too. So it's good.
oh, that's cool. So some Italy, some Mallorca, and so now you came back, and we can even see on your skin that you had some oxygen.
Oh, that's very kind. I don't, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not good in the sun. Normally, that's my. I'm not. I'm extremely northern person that should be in cold temperature, I think.
Yeah, protected.
Yes, exactly.
Well, at least the good part is that when you're very well rested, it's the best combo to get back and have some fresh ideas. There's this saying from Eckhart Tolle. He says that creativity rises in stillness. And so when
Mhm.
everything's moving around, it's like a house that's messy. You can't find your ideas. So it seems like you're going to have some good conditions to find your new ideas.
That's good.
So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's very true what he said.
yeah, I mean, and it's also a good example you're showing to your teams because when the boss is resting, that gives like the permission to everyone to be like, oh, okay, we can also chill. So that's a good thing to do.
That's good.
Yeah, and well, maybe to begin with, getting to know you a little, I have this thing that I just changed the name of the podcast, so maybe
Hmm.
I'll have to touch on that a little bit because it was called Creative Identities, which makes sense for a lot of my guests because you're all very creative people. But what I really love to talk about is how identities come to being, and so there are some things you've been saying in other interviews where you're talking about the identity of your agency and how by doing what you guys like, you became that identity and then you're feeding
Hmm.
into it and you're working on it. So what I hear from there is something I believe in also is the organic part of like, there is some truth and then you put the work in expressing it in the best way that there is. So I'm curious about how your personal identity develops. Like, do you feel like you had some times in your life to pause and think, who do I want Erik to be? Or was it always very organic, you following the things you enjoy and just being yourself on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, this do we only have an hour? Because yeah,
You can
this
come
could
back
take a while.
and do a series on it.
Uh, no, but I mean, no, I've been extremely confused and finding it hard to know what I want to do or what I should do in my life through the years. I mean, uh, I think everyone. I mean, this is so like everyone sort of goes through this in different ways. I think the few people I know that I knew from the start, like in high school or whatever, like what they were gonna be. I don't understand what's wrong with them or how they did it. But I was always extremely jealous of the few ones that felt like that. But for me, it's like you say, like I think in and often you wherever you come from, you sort of you have some type of like setup of what's expected, what you're supposed to do, and that if it comes from family or from society or from friends or whatever it is, like um, it it for most people there is something, and what I found hard in the beginning, which maybe like many other too, was to break that, or like to find your own path. And for me, it took a long time before I realized I needed to be driven by like lust and what I think is fun. I was trying a lot to fit in terms of like what I should do in my life, and but I never felt like I could fit in. It was it never worked out. So that was a bit hard. But then when I started to do that, it was so much easier. It became such a like you quickly I felt so much better, and it's like, and which was of course like more in this world that we're in now of like creating things and expressing your ideas, and thoughts about not necessarily about like like design or something. It could be about society or like you felt the need to express myself in that way, and I thought it was very fun to then to create ways of expressing yourself, and then helping others to do the same sort of. So that's like where things started to go in the right direction. And then with Snask, quite early on, that sort of I ended up with Snask and like Freddie, and we had a similar mindset. That's why we never really cared about like the design world or anything like that. We had some other driving force, which was something bigger than that, I think, and there we really met and so like aligned, and then so it became like the perfect hub for us to do that and to do it in our own way and not again follow the rules. And like and I actually like the more I understood that, because also with Snask it was like it's like different levels. Then it was like, how should you run an agency, how should you deliver your work, how should there's so many norms there as well, and how you should behave. And that's what we've been trying to fight a little bit, but that's not so easy. So you also have to go through phases to feel completely comfortable in that sometimes. And but eventually I did, I think, and today plus hundreds of hours of therapy, I feel better. In that way, I feel more free. And then today I would never be able to do something else. I almost think like it become
To go
that's why
back,
we kept
it's
on.
not possible.
That's why we've been doing this for so long. I think that we feel so free in what we do and how we do it. And one thing from early on, like what we called Snask for us, it's not like, oh, it's our business or a company or whatever. We call it a vehicle to have fun, basically. And that's been the idea of it.
And I feel like fun is also so good at protecting people from their egos, because when it's about fun, it's not about an award, it's not about, and what I hear on you two say is that there are lots of obstacles in life that are kind of almost trying to make it hard for you to be who you are. Like fitting in, as you said, there was the fitting in before you became agency boss, but then all the rules, all the economy, the society, and like an industry also comes back at you, as if they were trying to see, like, will they stay authentic or will they fit in? Maybe can you touch a bit on, like, you said you were trying to fit in when you were younger, like, what did you think at some point? Who did you think you were supposed to be at some point? Because some families are all like doctors and they think the kid needs to be a doctor. Like, what was the mold you were trying to fit yourself in and didn't take?
No, but I think it was like, it's this feeling, like I always felt like it was a little bit different, like in my way of, like, how I do, and I mean, this is not like, oh, I'm different. No, not in a good way, you know what I mean? Like, or like I found it hard to do things that other people seem to be very, say, have no problems with, like whatever. I found it hard to study, for example. I find it hard to focus on things and do things by the book and whatever. But like that was so in that way it was so hard to like connect with when other people talked about doing things. I could not fit in that, in the same way. Like it was so much different or difficult for me to do things that are like normal, maybe, in that way. And then but then, like, I was definitely supposed to study a lot because that's what you do in my family, or like, and I was supposed to do a more like a regular way of going from school to school to then some type of profession, whatever. But I could never, I didn't manage to adapt to it. And I actually went quite far with, like, I was pushing away this creative side, or this, I always found it super fun. But it was always like I play music and stuff like that too, and it was always like always a little hobby thing, or or creating films or directing and stuff like that was like, oh, that's fun, but it's nothing serious, or it's not, I can't do that, it's too hard, or it's like I don't know enough, or it's always like you come up with all the excuses. But then yeah, and so I tried for many years to do the normal way, but I could never come up with what I just felt. So I just started feeling worse and worse, I would say. And I even had like a sort of almost like a breakdown eventually at quite a young age, because I felt so not aligned with like the feeling I had about what I wanted to do, whatever, and what I was doing was not at all going hand in hand. So I just sort of eventually I sort of hit the wall. I was like, this is not going to work out. Like, and then I was like, it really had a moment of that, like not feeling good. And then I was like, what is it that what again, still studying, but I will be like, what could be something that I would only think would be fun, only fun. And I'm so happy that I got to that moment eventually. I don't know why. I can't even remember why. I think I was just feeling so shit that I was like, can't continue this. And that became, then I started to study like photography and film and stuff like that. And then something happened, and it was like, Yeah, it was, and then I had some friends that were in the industry from where that studied like at Hyper Island here in Sweden, like in the early year, and that was such a like new back then, extremely like uh, cool, like different thinking school. Like it was so new. Like just that talking about education, I was like, what is that an education really? And it could be questionable if it is, but it's a good networking and like um, a place to live out and like
Mm.
become something within what your interests and things. I think with a mind still like a job kind of career path going forward. And they were like, maybe they were like 20 or something, 20, 21, and which in Sweden is extremely early age to be done with studies and stuff. Like here you can like go travel for 5 years and then you start studying when you're 25 and become it's definitely different in this country sometimes, but like they did that and they started working at agencies and things like that, and I was so like, whoa, what is this world that they're in? And they have a salary and they lived in London or and I was so like that was just like I didn't know anything about that
Mhm.
world because I don't have anything of that coming from my hometown or my family or anything, so that sort of opened up also like possibilities in my head. It was like something where I could, in the end, it became this like between these things about like lust and what you think is fun to do,
Yeah.
and this whole thing with like career and job and education and whatever. This was where they met. That I was like, oh, I can have fun and do things that I enjoy, but I can also have a job
Yeah.
and and that was why I ended up in this industry, I think.
So in a way, you didn't have anyone else helping you out of that blockage. Like you just touched the ground and thought, okay, there's nowhere I can go from here, so I need to change directions.
Yeah, I think I had panic attacks for real. Like I was like at a very early age. I even remember I went to the doctor and I was like, I have something in my throat. I thought I was really like going for like a medical,
Hmm.
like something like my throat, and then they gave me the diagnosis like panic attack. I was like, I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. And it was horrible. Of course, it was like from when they told me, then I had it. Before that it was a throat problem, but from that they told me, then I really like got it too. And yeah, so it was really like it's like when you get to a place where you can't continue, and then I'm so happy that I'm sure there's like many people out there that go through this type of things in different ways. And I mean, I was lucky enough to,
Hmm.
I guess, have a good, like, have a lot of things around me that was going on, and like people,
Hmm.
like back then too, it wasn't like something you talked about really. You don't
Yeah.
talk about mental illness or like issues like that, but and people don't understand what this me. Like I said, I didn't either. Um, but I guess I had still like a good community around me where things were going on, and like so it wasn't like that. I guess I could have just hidden and never just like retreated my way back to something and like never show up again. Almost like that's because that's so how you feel when you feel that you just like you want to quit everything or hide sort of. But somehow I managed to do that a little bit when I needed to, but at the same time continue, like I said, with like I need a change and I need to do something, and like that took some time. But after a
Yeah.
couple of years, I sort of came out on the other side, and then it had been a development, which yeah, and suddenly I could be something somehow in my
Yeah.
head, like I have a purpose or whatever, like. Yeah, it's very.
It sounds like
I
an
had no clue we would talk about this. This is. I hope
You know, it is
we can be
because
on.
for me,
Yeah.
What's interesting is all the parts that come together, because for me, when we speak about identity, I'm really interested to seeing what makes you a good listener when you create a project. To you have a company that comes and they rely on you to get who they are, and they want
Mm.
you to help them express more than they could, to find the words, the visuals, and I feel like someone who's not connected to who they are, it's a bit hard to do that. So I'm really interested in seeing how you became and how this impacts the type of boss you are, the type of agency you lead, the type of projects you have. Like, and I find it also very empowering for other people to hear, because as you said, a lot of people have this vision of, oh, the others knew who they wanted to be, and I have
Yeah,
to work on this, and they all feel like imposters. Like, how do I get there? And also, the things you were currently saying, I think, touch a lot of the creative minds, because I don't know if you've ever approached topics like Ayurveda. It's
no, not really, but yes, I know, I understand still.
Yeah, in,
It's
in
about
in that area, you have these quizzes you can do to see your natural constitution. And a lot of the people who check, there's a type called Vata, have the things that you're saying, that this creative capacity, but if it is not well discovered and defined, then you go through stress and panics, because it's a lot of creativity can suddenly turn into a storm in your head. So I find
yeah.
it's a very lucky generation we're in right now, that we can get these information and hear people and their paths like this. So no, it's really interesting. And
Yeah, I mean, but that's very nice of you to say that you do that. And then what you're saying, I agree. And it's like if I would have had that more back then, that would have definitely helped me for
yeah,
sure. Maybe in an earlier stage too, to be like um, to have dared to like follow my emotions better or whatever. I mean, all of this, and I mean, I still. Like I said, it's not like I haven't gone to therapy and or I still do sometimes, and that's great. I think everyone should that can, and because it's yeah, it's not that easy, whatever it is in life, and things happens, and I mean, especially I think what I was doing was obviously holding back or pushing away what I felt that I wanted to do, or like what I thought was fun and things like that. And I was just trying to do something else that wasn't me. And I mean, that goes with in everyday life too. If you with emotions and whatever it is that you feel, if you don't express it, if you don't talk about it, it's gonna get back to you in a bad
yeah,
way, I think.
like it rots there, and then it's
Hmm.
gonna pollute you. But it's also
And
a question that comes to my mind is, when you're a creative mind like this and you work in a highly stimulating environment, isn't it also like a game of balance? Like you just said, that it's the first time that you had in many years a real holiday where you totally locked it out. How is it for you? Because you must be very solicited. Like you must have all the projects, lots of people talking to you. And in the meanwhile, as a creative director, you must feed your mind also of things, new things that you find interesting. Um, do you like surf the wave the whole year as it goes? Or do you have some ways of having breaks in between so you can digest what you're seeing and creating, to come back to it in a healthy way?
um, no, but I for me it's like everything goes in periods. Like I'm sometimes I get, would say, almost like thrive from having a lot of things going on, because
Mhm.
like I it gets you going. It's like you get out, you meet a lot of people. It's like and if you have a flow in that, that can be great,
Yeah.
and you just like ride the wave, and you get energy from work almost, or like you and but then that means that you cannot have a life often at the same time, which can be a problem. Like and work is absolutely not everything, and trying to combine it in fun ways sometimes or whatever. And if that works, it's great. But if I'm traveling all the time and doing things, and like when I do film production, for example, it's so fun to step into that bubble. Maybe you travel and produce somewhere else in the world, and you work day and night with it, and everyone is doing that. You're like in a bubble with a team doing it, sort of, and it can be super fun. And I feel like I can do so much, like and create so much, but then at the expense, definitely, of like other things that will come back. And then so that balance is always I think it's the answer, because then it can be other times when yes, you need a rest then to eventually, or like to come back and then have the energy to do things. So it's a little bit like it's like one of the other doesn't work. If you have too much time, or then I'm like, oh, then I care more about like, reading a book, or like talking about something else. I forgot, like I told you now, when I came back from this week, I forgot what we were like doing. Like I was not in it at all, which was a great feeling in one way, but also I was not that great then in terms of work. Like I wasn't like performing great, or in meetings, or like it was even like you have all your like lines that you say or whatever, and then suddenly I was like, what am I supposed to answer on this now, like, or whatever. It's almost like doing this interview. I'm like, I mean, I haven't. Now I had this break. Now it's like, I hope you're not going to answer or ask too many difficult questions about what I do. I'm like, I'm not even sure if I can answer it.
It's the best.
So
all natural.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sorry. It's like I didn't understand why, but suddenly like a million people started calling me. It's like something happened. I'm sorry about that. No, but I forgot to turn off my phone. I usually do that.
Okay. You're talking about a lot of work, so suddenly the work came.
Yeah, exactly. They heard me. They like, what the hell is he doing? It's the focus. No, but like, so I think it's, and then of course, like also it's very important with what type of work and stuff. Like, I mean, you get energy from or whatever life too. Like life can be super fun and give you energy to have fun at work, or create, or do things. You get inspired from your daily life, and you're like, oh, I still want to go in. You watch a great movie, or political debate that was interesting, and then you want to go in and do work, because there you feel like you can make a change or express yourself in somehow, or and that can be extremely important and inspiring. And but then it can also be that work itself can be fun and great and inspiring, or it can suck and be like really boring. And when it gets to like square and like commercially driven, what I mean? Like it's like, the whole like thing of, I think you were mentioning that before too, about like why you do a project is like because of some like almost like commercial goal or something that's or is it like because it should be fun, or and you easily notice that very early on what's the both with people you collaborate with, or like it could be the client itself and so on. So I mean, so I would, it's not like a straight answer. I can really feel great sometimes when I have the most I ever done, like when I'm working all the time and I like, this is so much fun. And then the next time it could be the opposite, where I'm like, I need to have way less to do and I feel great and like inspired, and I feel more like free in the like ideation and whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like a digestive system. It's like it's fun when you start eating, but then you have a lot and then you need a break, and then the circle goes back around.
Exactly. It's like good with a lot of like small dishes.
Mm-hmm.
So you like
Yeah, tough one.
you try. I don't know. Yeah.
But I'm curious also when like a project comes to you. I mean, you're the creative director. I guess you guys have a head strategist that accompanies you when you have to imagine the whole new identity of a brand. How much do you play into the understanding who this company is part? Or are you served, you and your teams on the creative side, are you served the understanding of the identity from the strategists? How do you process that part of the work?
No, but like this depends also a little bit on definitely on the client and project, because some of them needs that more or demands it more, and some don't. Like, yeah, I mean, it's so I think in one, as a first, again, I don't think there's a law like this is how it has to be done to be able to become good or work. I mean, some of the best projects we've done sometimes have been 100% lust driven, and like we are just like you immediately believing something that's gonna be expressive and interesting. You just go all in on it. Um, and then you like, and maybe that was the strategy, so to say, you know, like
Yeah.
and other times you need to go way deeper into it, and you know, and it's actually Freddie that does, he is way more focused on or in the strategy work, and I'm more in the like output side of things, and so often it's like in a proper bigger project, you know, like that, then he will, and of course a team of members will like be more focusing on those things, and carving out what's the point of this and the meaning, and like the values of the whole thing, what they are moving forward, and then but then like a tricky part can be to translate it, you know, when you, it's many times, and I think this is very common within like other agencies and whatever too, that you like you have some type of strategy that could be really good, you know, very well done or whatever, but then you sort of like forget about it when you move on, because it can be tough to have those like demands on it or whatever too, and like but you know, at the same time you also need to be free in creative things. You can't just like stare at the strategy or like you know, a brief all the time. You have to like, you know, you sometimes you find things in other ways too, and then you realize that you can connect them, and you know, they can make something better, you know. So it's like yeah, it's the same here. It's like a balance thing. It's like not one way that's the golden like route only. It's like, I think it's a mix. Sometimes you need to leave things, maybe go out and experiment for a couple of weeks, and then you come back, and then you like again find the connection. So you look back at the brief again or the strategy, and like, okay, that makes sense. And or sometimes you're like, oh shit, this doesn't make sense at all, what we created, because it has nothing to do with this strategy. We've forgotten about it. We have to redo, you know. So it's yeah, it's like a game there where you need to go try and go back and forth a little bit, and then again, like the client sometimes cares loads about it, and sometimes they don't, and then of course you need to be a bit smart in the approach to.
It's more, when is it more about branding and when is it more about expressing an impactful message, I guess, because I feel like the work I have seen from your agency is always very impactful, to say the least. And I feel like because you studied photography and film, you can find that sense of craft in the things you guys do. It's very visual. And I think the thing that touched me the most when I was watching your presentation at Namur was that when there's a beautiful photography, you guys really did the photography. You really did the scene. It's not just on a computer. It's not just, and I have worked with a lot of agencies I've been freelancing as a strategist for over 10, like 14 years now, I was going to say 10. And so I've seen a lot of people at work, and it's very rare that they have the good artists or craftspeople of each type of element of the
Mm.
end visual. And so that's something that's very exciting. But what I feel also is because it's so impacting the end result that you're going to do, it's immediately going to play into the brand DNA, because the people who saw this are going to remember it. And so then I feel like there might be a before and after snacks campaign for the brands who work with you, because then they have to keep it up. They can't suddenly go back to if there was a boring campaign before. They can't be like, okay, we paid these guys once, and now we can go back to as it was. It was very fun, but I feel like then there is a way of um, yeah, like not to make the mistake of being too snask and not enough the client's DNA. And that was something I was really curious to talk with you about. Like, but I guess what you kind of answered it. I don't know if you have anything to add on to it, but it's like I guess you also attract like-minded spirits to the agent.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aspects now what you said, but like, I mean, one thing, for example, the whole like Snask's identity versus a client's
Yes.
needs or whatever, that's something that we often get a question about, or like sometimes the clients are uncertain about that. They're like, they
Mm-hmm.
think that they will, that all we do will be like pink or like, you know, and it's like kind of weird because like, that's not at all what
Yeah,
it's about. It's like we do what we think is good for the
for the client.
for, yeah, exactly, and then but then that often is to be bold and like to
Mm-hmm.
stand out and be and like put a smile on people's face. I mean, again, we don't work with like the most conservative clients that are, you know, like blah blah blah, and like, and yes, we've done banks and stuff like that, but then maybe they at least are trying um to do things a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
interesting, or we are pushing them to do at least. And but I mean, it's more like still also that we set out to do something that we thought was fun, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, working with our hands and building things, just not making it in like using the computer as a tool, and you know, not creating everything in that way, or 3D or digital or whatever. And like, it's so much more fun to be on a set,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, working or creating things together with by hand, or painting together, whatever it is that we need to do. And like, it becomes like a totally different team experience as well. And again, it enriches our lives, I think. And then yes, we that's the approach we like to have. And that's why like many times people come to us because they have seen that, or they want that. We often start in like in a good spot with clients and projects. It's not like we're
Mm-hmm.
completely divided in style, even though I must say, like, through we've been going on for so many years now, and like, first of all, we go in and out of trend all the time. I don't know how many times we've been like, the people like, oh, that's so done or whatever, and then like, oh, it's so cool, you guys are the cool thing, and then I probably heard that like 5 times over, you know, like, it's like just in a, but and we just like keep on doing whatever it is that we want to do. But then um also, I noticed that later years, it's been a little bit, we have become a bigger name,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that like before, we had a time when like people really came to us because of what we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had seen the work and they were like, we really want to work with you and we want you to do what you do, you know. But now when the name has sometimes become bigger than the work,
Okay.
weirdly, you understand, like, then like it can be just, oh, I heard of you,
Mm-hmm.
or someone, you know, said, or we read, or we want to, you know, and then they have no clue what we are about.
Yeah.
So
Wait.
they think that we are more like a classic agency, or like whatever they, you know, that maybe um and then it's been a couple of times when it's not, it hasn't been a great match
Yeah.
really, when the, you know, and we you know, sometimes had to like almost like terminate like some projects because it was like this is we have a completely
Yeah,
different
that's interesting.
understanding.
What do you feel like those people had attached to your brand that wasn't you?
Anything that this industry is about, I don't know. It's like they just thought that we were, you know, like any. I think there's so many agencies out there that just do whatever the client wants them to do, or like don't, uh, or where these are big clients that I'm talking about too, and they are used to be in the, deciding everything maybe, or they have a very clear identity that like this is how it's supposed to be, and I totally get it. I'm not saying that it's like they are allowed to do that. They are not necessarily even wrong in doing it, but that wasn't like, why did they come to us? We're even like often we're like, why are they talking to, are they asking us about to do this? This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. But then they're like, we're so excited to work with you finally. We
Mm.
heard so many good things about you, blah blah blah. And we're like, okay, but maybe there is something then there. And then we like have first presentation. They're like, they sit there
Oh,
and they like, okay, mm, thank you for that, but yeah, we're not 100% sure that this. Yeah, we need to talk a little bit, And then suddenly, like, and it's like not at all what they expected or wanted, because they thought we were just gonna do it as they always do it or something.
mhm.
And so uh, it's, yeah. I don't remember. Sorry, I just talked too much. I don't even remember what the question was, but
No, but
I
it's
hope that was not.
we go with the flow. But in what you're saying is something I've heard a lot. And I worked in Paris a lot, many years, and something a lot of agencies complain about is the clients that come to them for their expertise, but don't let them be advisors, don't let them
Yeah.
express their expertise. And in what you say, you were speaking about these big companies that come to you, but then they wanted to keep doing what they were doing. I think this is a common ill of like big
Yeah,
companies
for
who kind
sure.
of want to have fun. Like they also want to have fun, but they can't really take the risk of being too expressive, of being too authentic. And I think this is also a big topic about identities because um, if you please everyone, you end up being something smushy in the middle. But if you accept not to please everyone, but like you're gonna be loved by some people, and I think that's also it comes back to our original conversation, even about oneself. Like how do I accept to give up on being a people pleaser and being true. um, but coming back to
Yeah.
your creative world, I'm a bit curious. Like we just come out of the summer season, like maybe not totally out of it yet, but and we are living in a world that's not going too well on many aspects. Like I don't know if you've seen, but there are some gloomy news out there about nature and forest
What?
fires and. Hmm?
Oh, there are things going bad? I thought everything was fine.
Did you cut yourself out of it to protect yourself?
Yeah, I'm one of those. I just quit news.
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, no, absolutely not. Um, but yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's not looking
That's
good.
also part of an answer to my question because I quit news for a long time, and then there was a
Mm.
moment I was in Turkey this summer, and Instagram was closed, like you couldn't access it, and that's when I realized that I was using it a bit too much. And then I went back to news and what's happening in the world, and I was actually curious to see what that gloom does to your creative energy, like does it hurt it and so you're blocking it out to
No.
remain happy and creative, or does it sometimes, because in these things there is both anger and sadness, do you fuel that into new projects, whether it's in the company or in your personal life? Like how do you.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it's more. It inspires me more. Like I mean, now when you, of course, if we're going to talk about details about what's wrong right now in the world, I can't say, oh, it inspires me. I mean, of course, that would be extremely stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible.
Mhm.
I don't want things to be in this way, and it can be heavy for
Mhm.
sure. Like I mean, it's been like this for years now. It feels like it's just getting worse and worse in so many ways, and that can definitely be heavy for the mind, and you can feel a little bit what's the point sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but I think from a still like an inspiration point of view, like that's what like I take with me is like the would say the wish to the feeling to be able to express something and make a change with something or whatever, and I mean in many ways we you don't have the opportunity in many type of projects. They're just stupid commercial whatever usage, but then you can at least maybe make people a little bit happy or make something that's like fun to do, or the process doing it
Yeah.
with your team and whatever could be in fun and inspiring in some
Mm-hmm.
way, and at least you do that, and when we give our talks, or when we do things like that, we can say, well, we're not afraid of not saying what we think about things that going on, and we can express it in some projects, and things like that. And I mean, for me, it's always been like I've never been inspired by our industry, I would say, or like
Yeah.
I don't find inspiration in like looking at other people's work, really, or thing. Like I get inspired by everything around me, like in terms of like politics, culture, society,
Mm-hmm.
or just taking a walk in the forest, or so, whatever. Like it's that's the like me and Freddie often say that like we could have the why we do what we do has nothing to do with like the industry that we're in, really. That just happened to be. We would have had the same um, attitude and same like going in with the same values, but we could have been a company that was delivering ice buckets to parties, and we would have been the same. I know, like whatever it is that we
Yeah.
would be doing, and then this was just like an intro. Oh, it's fun to create things and work with design and film, and therefore we are in that
Mm-hmm.
world. But it doesn't change like our view of the world, or like and again, if you don't mix them, then like I would stop existing. I feel like a human. I can't just go in and be like ignore everything
Yeah.
that's going on, like
Mm-hmm.
so rather again, more take it in and feel like you're inspired, and take that with you and see when you can help in some way to
But
make a
something you
change.
say, also is really interesting in terms of bringing joy can be like a purpose in itself in amongst the
Hmm.
group. Like
For
because a lot of
sure.
people immediately try to be activists or like to do greener ads and things like that. But I mean, I couldn't live without stand-up comedy. I couldn't live without humor,
Yeah,
and it's true that we need to have
but
like joy. Hmm.
it's definitely so important. There's a filmmaker called Emil Kusturica, and he has made some amazing movies.
Hmm.
All of them sort of in the Balkan area. Most of them are around it, and he sometime years ago I read some interview with him, and he said that most of his movies are really heavy. They're about war, and they're about like poverty, and all this like and horrible things in life, and they're often extremely dark, even though he has humor in them. They like end in like in sort of, some of them are just like everyone dies, it's really like horrible. But then he said like, but he has a rule
Hmm.
that is that anyway, or whatever happens in the movie, it always has to end happily and positive. So because he was like, there's so much shit going on, and if people sit in the movie theater watching this, and it's such like horrible experience, he doesn't want to leave them with that. He doesn't want them to go away with that. So he wants them to go away with a smile and a feeling of hope, and I think it's so beautiful and
Yeah.
so nice. So it's like, I think in one of the movies where everyone literally dies, everyone is like in horrible ways, and like in war, and And then I think it's like the last people that die, they drown in the ocean, and then when they drown, and this is like movie is more or less over, you follow them through the water, and then they start coming alive, or like they start swimming down, and then they swim to the bottom of the sea, and then everyone else is there that used to be like their friends and family, and they having a big party in the bottom of the sea or something. You know, it's like, and it's just like that type of you know, yeah, the switch in mood, and you know, it's like it's very interesting, and it's probably why I like even somewhere, because I would probably otherwise be like, oof, I don't want to know those movies are too much, or you know, but no, humor and to be able to laugh at things and have, you know, that's key to survive in this world, I think.
No, I love it, because it's also a way of making people look at things we wouldn't look otherwise, like you just said. Like art, craft, creativity can make you not run away from the topics, because I feel like there is a real deep issue with the way we get news, because we get all the news from around the world, and I don't think our brains are wired to take in so much bad news. And we shouldn't even know about everything. From like, we're made to live in a village and be sad for the neighbor and happy for the other neighbor. Like, instead you go on internet and you're like everything comes. But yeah, I see. And I had like one maybe stupid question, but I think it's fun, so we'll see if you find it.
No questions are stupid. So.
One last one. I was thinking, because the summer I knew that we were going to do our interview, and while I was watching the Olympics show in Paris, I was thinking, what if the next country where the Olympic flame goes to is Snask? Like, what would their opening ceremony be like? Like, if you had that as a brief and you got to do all this opening, would that be like an inspiring brief? And do you have any ideas of like how Freddie could occupy?
You would do it extremely conservative, you know, and showing like, since it was so horrible that this one had was showing like religious, or was it Christian? They were mocking Christians and doing everything that was so bad. So we would definitely listen to the public, and we would just do the most conservative, white, you know. No, but yeah, that would be a fun. No, it would be a fun. We would, of course, do the opposite. We would just do everything. We would just try to upset any idiot person out there that is possible to upset, because it's so fucking stupid that they can't be more open-minded, or like that people don't understand what it's like. It's most of these things that they are so upset about is about like love and you know, letting people be who they are, and you know what I mean. And it's so crazy that what the fuck is wrong with people. And so I think that would be fun for sure. Do you have that job for us somewhere? Do you have some connection?
I mean, we just put it in the universe, so maybe it will come. You know, maybe you'll get a phone call from LA and they'll say Tom Cruise needs you. He can't jump again.
Tom, we're here. We're here for you. Definitely do some crazy stunts with him, and it's great.
Yeah, okay, then I feel like we're closing on a happy ending, like like now we're all expecting the next chapter at the Olympics. Of course, I would have like kept going with lots of questions, but I know time is precious. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was super fun. Great questions. It was fun. This was.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Let's talk again then.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, well, take care, and I will be sharing this with everyone soon, and I'm looking forward to that. Have a nice day.
Okay. Me too.
Bye.
Hey, you too. Thank you.